Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water. A closer look at agriculture in South Carolina and conversations between the current and future leaders of agriculture in the Palmetto State and experts from across America. Presented by the students of the South Carolina Governor's School for Agriculture at John De La Howe.
Welcome to this edition of Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water. My name is Gray Gardner, and today we have in our studio one of South Carolina's premier culinary artists. In 2015, he was named by Governor Nikki Haley as one of the original South Carolina chef ambassadors. He's the owner of a popular destination dining spot in Ridge Spring called JUNIPER, and he's a true innovator in the kitchen. Our guest, Chef Brandon Velie. So I guess just to start us off, Chef Velie, how did you get into this culinary arts as a kind of your career path?
It's a great question. Started cooking started working in a kitchen when I was 14, washing dishes. Had worked all through high school in various kitchens. Grew up in New York, a place called Poughkeepsie, New York. Originally from Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C., and joined the Marine Corps at 18 and was a cook in the Marines for 4 years. And then just kind of worked all up and down the East Coast in various kitchens and ended up in 2002 in Aiken, South Carolina, working at a private club. And then in 2005, we opened JUNIPER. My wife and I opened JUNIPER in Ridge Spring. So we're going on 19 years now.
That's a long time. That's definitely a stretch from, going from New York to South Carolina. Kind of what was the difference, coming from that part of the country, coming down all the way down here? Definitely different regions, but I guess you could call it.
So when I joined the Marines, I came down. Went to boot camp at Parris Island,
nice.
So right on the coast, and I came down in the summertime. So the big difference for me was the heat. That was tough to get used to. I felt like I was melting. But then was stationed in North Carolina, so I had lived there for a few years, and then Virginia, and then back down to South Carolina.
What kind of cooking did you did? I know there's different varieties.
Sure. The Marine Corps is really just feeding masses. So, sometimes up to 10,000 people a meal. And then working in various sort of restaurant settings, some hotels, some private clubs, some restaurants, really sort of like, I guess what you would call American cuisine for a long time. Not necessarily focused on one region, but a little bit of everything. And then when I moved to South Carolina in 2002, then really sort of shifting my focus to Southern cuisine and farm to table.
So why don't you kind of talk about, the Chef Ambassador program, getting selected by Nikki Haley, as and especially, your role then, when you first got selected, but also, now as a Chef Ambassador and, helping with the program.
Sure. So the program started in 2014. Nikki Haley actually had come to JUNIPER to have dinner, and we presented her with the idea. My wife and I presented her with the idea then. And we had met with her a few times to discuss the program and get it started. 2015, the program officially kicked off. I was one of 4 chef ambassadors selected that year. They pick 3 to 5 every year. We're now at 34 chef ambassadors across the state. And really my role now, originally the idea was to take South Carolina Department of Agriculture and South Carolina Parks, Recreation, and Tourism and have them team up to promote agriculture and tourism across the state. And my role now is as an advisor. I work with the current chef ambassadors to help them with any questions they might have or get ready for some of the events they're doing, because a lot of times this is the first time for them doing some of these bigger events like Charleston Wine and Food and Euphoria up in Greenville. So to help them and answer any questions and then just sort of advise on the program.
So what is a chef's ambassador's role?
To just promote South Carolina tourism and agriculture in any way we can. That's the simple answer.
So what kind of restaurant is Juniper? I know, that's not a kind of an interesting spot to have it. What kind of do y'all do over there?
So our focus, we're a chef-focused restaurant, so it's all about quality versus quantity. And really our focus is to promote local products. It's really what you would call farm to table. I find that to be sort of a misleading term in that any product that a restaurant serves came from a farm. So everything is kind of farm to table. But we try to partner up with a lot of local farms and really sort of feature products within a 100-mile radius of our restaurant and cook seasonally. So asparagus in the spring, not asparagus in December, because you can't really get it locally in December.
How big of a challenge does that create on y'all having to or trying to have that goal of your 100-mile radius?
19 years in, it's not as hard as it was on year one.
Yeah.
It was very tough to figure out who was within that radius and to try to source those products. But we've built a lot of great relationships with local farmers, so it's gotten much easier as time has gone on.
And then, so like when you say local farmer, do you mean like local farmers that are big, that are selling widely, or do you mean like small little country folks that got little farms? Both.
So I have farmers that literally pull up to my back door in a pickup truck with sweet potatoes in the bed that they don't necessarily sell to restaurants, but they might sell at a farmer's market or they sell to us. But then I also deal with farms like Titan Farms, which is the biggest peach farm on the East Coast or outside of California. That one farm alone, which is a family-owned farm, but that one farm alone grows more peaches than the entire state of Georgia. So huge operation.
So I know we kind of talked about some of the upsides, but what are the advantages of buying locally?
For me as a chef, flavor, right? Because I can go to an asparagus farm that's 3 miles away and get asparagus that was picked that morning, or if I'm really lucky, get to go out and pick it myself, which is fun to do. But get asparagus that morning versus something that sat on a truck, or a ship to get here, then sat on a truck for a couple weeks or a refrigerator somewhere. It's kind of dried out. I can get it at its peak seasonal freshness, and you can't beat that on flavor. That makes my job so much easier.
So, just wondering, like with all natural, small town getting food, do you have to go through any protocols or anything like that when you do get food to be able to cook it and sell it to people?
Yeah, I mean, we try to make sure we're buying from farms that either are certified South Carolina grown or, have gone through some sort of inspection process. But we also, a big thing for us is that and I say us, meaning my wife and I, we visit the farms. So we make a point of, before we purchase from someone, actually going to the farm, shaking the hand of the farmer, getting to see how their farm is run, and sort of using that as our main gauge of, is this someone we want to do business with?
Yeah. How is this benefiting the local farmers?
It's benefits not just the local farmers, but the whole local economy. So we're purchasing from them, so they're getting to sell their product, they're making money, but then they're using that money to then come have lunch with us or invest in Ridge Spring, which is a tiny little farming town of about 800 people. So they're spending their money in town. So it's, kind of a full circle thing.
Yeah, well, especially, with your role in the Chef Ambassadors, but also, in your restaurant, how important do you think, especially, as us as teenagers or even, younger kids in high school, how important really is that, to talk about agriculture and talk about, agritourism to be promoting South Carolina products?
For me as a chef, it's of the utmost importance. We need to know where our food comes from. We need to have an understanding of where our food comes from and how it's grown and the importance of that. Going to the grocery store has put a big separation in a lot of people's lives, especially young people, not quite understanding where their food comes from. And that's extremely important. And understanding the value of what food is, that somebody worked hard. It's not just going to the grocery store and picking that item up, but realizing the hard work that was put into growing that product.
I think, especially for us, going into career paths, what kind of advice would you give someone? Maybe not either, wanting to go into to be a chef, or just to kind of get involved with agriculture and food, with that agritourism aspect of it.
I think agritourism, definitely get involved in it and let people come see what you're doing on your farm, because they want to support that. When they can see, the work you're putting into it, they want to support you. And that's extremely important. But also, my advice is hook up with the local restaurant and get to know the chefs, because they're going to be the ones who are buying your product and they're going to be promoting your product. So we put the farm name on all our menus. We talk about the farm. It gives us an extra selling point in being able to sell that beef, to be able to say, this was from Jan Family Farms right down the road. And, being able to talk about the farmers and their family. So that's important for you guys as well, because that's going to help your farm grow and get your name out there.
So this weird question, like how'd you find the farms? Did you just drive up and down the road like, oh, I want to stop there? They look pretty nice.
Yeah, certainly. There were times for sure. So when you come into Ridge Spring, you actually drive through a cattle farm. The road cuts through a cattle farm, which is Jan Family Farms. So it was hard not to find that farm when you see the sign, and cows are on both sides and they look like happy cows. I don't know if cows smile, but they looked happy and they're out there eating grass and living lives like cows should live. So that made us want to stop and say, we need to get to know these people. But definitely farmers markets have been a big one. Going to farmers markets to sort of get to meet people and not just buy their product and see their product on display, but, once again, shake their hand, get to know them, get to meet them a little bit, and then, make that connection of, we've got a restaurant, we want to work with you. So that has been good as well for us, but also word of mouth. So, I start buying from you, and then you talk to the next farmer to let them know, who might have a different product, that they should get in touch with us to sell their product to. So we've also had a lot of farmers reach out to us. And like I said, year 1 was tough. Year 19 is much easier. People reach out to us to say, we want to sell you our chicken.
Have you ever had any problems having going and buying from farmers and maybe them not giving you that good quality of thing, or
sure,
going back on their part of the deal?
Yep, certainly. Yeah. I'm not going to go too much into that, but yes, as a chef, I have to be particular. So I'm very particular about the product I get. I do really check the product I get. I make sure it's a really good quality product. And not everybody meets those standards. And I think that works for any business you're in. Not everybody's going to meet your standards.
What do you think? I know I like food. I'm sure I know they like food. What do you think? Definitely, or either your favorite food or favorite dish at the restaurant. Or what's your favorite thing cooking over there?
So favorite thing to cook at the restaurant is anything in season. I just get excited by all the different stuff that comes in throughout the season. So, when asparagus season starts, that's my favorite. I get real excited about it. When peach season starts, because Ridge Spring sits on an area called the Ridge, which is like the peach capital of South Carolina. When peach season starts, I get really excited for all the different peach related items we can do. So really just cooking seasonally and with whatever I can get that week. We change our menu every week to focus on that idea of cooking what's in its peak season. So I just get excited by all of that. I don't necessarily have a favorite, because This week, it might be chicken pot pie that I'm really excited about because I just got this great chicken and these veggies from 2 different farmers and I can combine them in this neat way. Next week, it can be something totally different. My favorite thing to eat, though, is pizza by far.
I've heard you say peach a couple times on while we've been talking. What all do you do with the peaches? Like dishes you make with peaches?
Oh man, I feel like Bubba from Forrest Gump. I could just go on and on about all the different peach dishes we have done. We actually were invited in June of 2017 to cook at the James Beard House, which for chefs is like a musician getting invited to perform at Carnegie Hall. So for chefs, it's a huge deal. They only do a few hundred dinners a year, and they invite chefs from all over the world to come cook. So for this tiny little town of 800 people, to get invited to Manhattan to cook a dinner at the James Beard House is a huge, huge deal. And our dinner that we did in June of 2017 was a peach-focused dinner. So every item contained peaches in some way. So, I mean, I could peach butter, peach cobbler, peach and chicken. I mean, you name it. After all these years, yeah, peaches are really good sautéed with chicken and basil and some butter. It's good stuff. Yeah.
I need to try that one.
Yeah.
I might have to give that a try.
Yeah. So, I mean, you name it. Yeah. Ridge Spring. Yep. And I would imagine it's probably like a 30-minute drive from here. Not too far.
So is this all like innovative dishes that you make? Like you just make up, or like trial and error type of thing, or
both? And my cooking experience has been a lot of trial and error, trying things that don't necessarily work and then figuring out how to make them work. But really, I get ideas from other restaurants. So eating out, for me as a chef, eating out is extremely important because I get ideas from other restaurants and what other chefs are doing, but also reading newspapers and magazines and different things that cover food. And the internet is a great resource for me. But then, yes, my own sort of ideas. And what I like to do is sort of take classic comfort dishes and then put my own spin on them.
So is the peach and chicken your idea? Or did you...
Oh, no, that's one that people have been doing for a while. But I think, the flavors and the different things we do sort of makes it our own.
None of us have heard of that one.
Our signature dish at the restaurant is corn chowder. So it's not new. People have been cooking corn chowder forever. I always tell people, like, since man has been cooking over fire, how many different ways of cooking have there's nothing is necessarily new anymore. Somebody has tried it somewhere along the way. But our spin on that corn chowder is sort of what makes it signature to us. So it's our version and our idea of what corn chowder should be. And it's good. It's good. Yeah, real good.
So with the Chef Ambassador program, do you get a lot of younger chefs, or are they more, kind of seasoned veterans in the field?
I would say more seasoned veterans. They pick chefs that have restaurants that are open to the public. That's sort of like a guiding principle to it, is in order to be a chef ambassador, you have to be somewhere that's feeding the public. You don't have to be the owner of the restaurant. We've had plenty of people that, work for someone else, but are sort of like running that restaurant for them. But really, it's all different age ranges. It is a huge array of different chefs, men, women. It is a huge selection, and they've been really good about picking chefs from small towns as well as big cities. So there's Charleston and Greenville, which are, that's what everybody thinks of when they think of food in South Carolina, and they're definitely represented. But there's also a lot of small town chefs that are represented as well. That's a great question, by the way.
Yeah, because I'm sure that's probably a lot of, especially once people, get up to your level, I'm sure that's kind of one thing they've been hoping for. With South Carolina, I know we talk about small towns, big cities, that kind of thing. How different do you think with the Low Country and Upstate? How different are those two compared, color kind of traditions, seasonal things like that?
So obviously, Low Country is going to be a lot more seafood focused because they have that available right there to them. There's some really great things, and they're used across the state. I mean, you can get seafood in Greenville. It's not the same as getting it down in.
I'm from the coast. So.
Okay, so it's not the same as getting it from Mount Pleasant or something. But the season changes as you move up the state as well. So asparagus is available sooner to me than it would be to someone in Greenville. And I keep saying asparagus just because it's that time of year that it's starting to become available. But, peaches are available to me sooner than they will be to a farm in Anderson. And then it'll cross over because then it'll be available for the rest of the summer all over the state. But I'll be able to start a little bit sooner. So I do think that seasonality makes a difference where you are in the state. But really, everything is available, South Carolina grown across the state. A lot of places, I think of like Marsh Hen Mill down in Edisto, that their products are available everywhere. You can get Marsh Hen Mill up in Greenville, and you can do Carolina rice up in Greenville, although Carolina Gold rice comes from the coast.
I'm from Edisto, so.
Okay, yeah, awesome.
Well, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I love Edisto, and there's some really good farms, and Marsh Hen Mill does a great job with a lot of local stuff. And I wish I could think of the name of the restaurant. There's a restaurant in Edisto that I love. It's just a little bit off the island. It's really good.
Roxbury.
Yeah,
Mercantile.
Roxbury Mercantile. Did you? Yeah.
Small
Yeah.
world.
Oh, I've eaten there quite a few times. I do love Roxbury Mercantile. They do a really good job.
Charleston. Definitely seafood, getting it down in Charleston compared to getting it up in Greenville is definitely a different experience.
Yeah.
How you talk about, seasonal stuff and all that. What do you think I know we talked about, your signature dish at the restaurant, what you and people, you're most known for, especially with like South Carolina food, how different Low Country and Upstate is, what kind of do you think South Carolina is the best at, or what kind of is our signature thing?
I think grits for sure, which is one of my favorite things to cook. But I think everybody thinks of, anybody from outside South Carolina thinks of grits when they think of Southern food. Shrimp and grits being a big one. We've got a great quail farm outside of Columbia, Manchester Farms, they sell quail all over the country, but they're known as a South Carolina farm. So I do think there are peaches, obviously. I'm not knocking Georgia, but they're not the peach state. They should be the other peach state. But I think things like peanuts, and there's a lot of different pecans and a lot of different items that South Carolina is pretty well known for.
I know I work in a farm back in Clinton, and we work with Titan a lot, with their peaches. There's so many different kinds. I didn't even know that there were that many kinds of peaches. I just thought a peach was a peach.
Yeah.
Because where I grew up from, we didn't do peaches. We did hogs and we did, their stuff.
It's kind of neat how they have it set up. So every couple of weeks, it's a new variety that's growing. It's not just peaches, it's a different variety of peaches that's available.
I did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
so if you ever get a chance to get a white peach, try a white peach because that is like candy. They are awesome.
Clingstone and all this different stuff was because people would come. We have our own farmers market like with that, and they would come to me asking these questions, and I think that kind of stands for all South Carolinians. Know where your food comes from. Know what kind of things you're eating. Especially how focused we are on agriculture in the state, and just in our lives. Because they were coming asking me a question. I was like, not sure. Let me go ask my manager, and those kind of things.
But that goes back to your earlier point of the importance of starting your own farm and the importance of agritourism. That's where that really comes into play, is that people can come to your farm and learn things like what is a clingstone versus freestone peach. And when in the season does that sort of change? Those are really important things, and things that I think people really want to know that you're not going to find out from the produce guy, at the grocery store. But when you can actually come to the farm and get to learn those things, that is extremely important.
Like me and Lily both, have market hogs, and I think that's definitely when we go to shows and all those kind of different things, talk about what we're doing after these pigs get processed, where we know what they're eating too. I think that's a big special thing. But I also love to know, where are you on South Carolina barbecue? What kind of barbecue do you like? Vinegar based, ketchup based, mustard based? I know I'm from Mechanicsville in Darlington area, so I've been eating vinegar based since I was like this little, but I know people have different opinions.
They do. Strong opinions. Very strong opinions.
Fight over this at dinner sometimes. Yeah. It's crazy.
So my restaurant is in the Midlands, and Midlands is mustard-based barbecue. Like I said, I grew up in New York. Mustard-based is not my favorite, but I have had some really good mustard-based barbecue. The best I ever had was actually in Napa Valley, California, which was surprising. But I'm definitely, I lean towards tomato. I'm more of a Kansas City style, thick tomato based barbecue. But I do love the vinegar based, which you find more on the coast. I do love that vinegar based barbecue. And I'm all about smoked meats and pulled pork. And, if it's done right, it doesn't even have to have a sauce on it. It's good just on its own. Yeah, and I hope I don't get in trouble when I get back to the restaurant. What do you mean mustard base isn't that great?
That'd be my fault for asking. We eat barbecue all the time. I love barbecue.
A lot of people are very passionate about it.
They are.
Especially around here, they're passionate about the kind of barbecue you talk about.
So a lot of kids do 4-H projects where they're pretty much raising their own animals. Have you ever had any interest in buying one of these market animals from any of these?
So we've done a little bit of work with 4-H, and we've bought some produce from different 4-H programs. Never any meat, but definitely something I would consider and think about for sure. We are leaning towards more and more. I find myself as a chef leaning more towards smaller protein portions. When I first started cooking, it was the big, giant T-bone steak or, huge bone-in pork chop. I find myself going more veggie heavy as I get a little bit older in life and learn a little more about healthier food. So I definitely lean a little more heavier on the produce side, and I'm not a vegetarian or vegan. I'm all about, but I do smaller portions of protein. This probably doesn't answer your question at all, but I would be interested in, definitely talking with someone about purchasing product from them for sure. And we're all about support. I mean, I'm here today. We're about supporting the future in farming. So anything we can do to get involved in that is something we're interested in. And I think farming is one of those areas that there aren't enough young people interested in it. So it's going to be more and more in demand, and we need to have a future that's interested in farming. So whatever we can do to support that, for sure.
Thank you for that.
Of course.
Yeah, I know a lot of people around here do. I mean, anything from beef cattle to market hogs to goats. Really anything. Chickens. Rabbits.
Yeah. Rabbits is one of my favorites right now because we also are big proponents of sustainability and looking out for the earth. And rabbits are very sustainable, good for the earth. There's a lot you can do with not just the rabbit, but what the rabbit leaves behind, so to speak. So rabbits is sort of a favorite of mine currently. It's a great source of protein. It's healthier, it's leaner, and it's good for the environment.
Yeah, I know with us in our rural class, we're part of the Sustainability Ambassadors Program with, USC and Coastal Carolina. I think that's definitely a big thing we talk about, not just here on our campus, but also, back at home. keeping sustainability at its high point, because especially, with the way the world's going now, just being conscious of, your efforts. I'm assuming, that plays a big role in, your restaurant too, not being wasteful and all those kind of things.
Yep. Yeah, we have, we definitely try to put less and less in the landfill. We work with a local pig farmer who we save all our veggie scraps. We don't put any meat in it, but all our veggie scraps we save so that they're not in a landfill, and we actually give them to a local pig farmer who then feeds his pigs with JUNIPER scraps, and then we purchase meat from him. So once again, it's like this cool full circle thing for us in that we're buying pork that ate JUNIPER to then get served at JUNIPER. It's neat. It's neat for us to do that. So yeah, we try to support the farmer in that he's getting some food from us that we're not charging him for, because it's just scraps that we're going to go in the garbage. And then we're also purchasing from him. So I feel like that is really helpful and good for our community and good for the environment and sustainable.
I have out of everything you've done, out of your whole experience, starting your restaurant to before when you were thinking about it, I thought, what has been your greatest accomplishment or experience that you've had throughout it?
So running a restaurant for going on 19 years with my wife has been by far the greatest that we've managed to make it that long in the restaurant business, which is a very tough business, has been wonderful. Like I said, the James Beard House, getting invited to cook there, I've actually cooked there twice now, has been a huge accomplishment. Having my children, I have 4 kids, having my children be involved in the restaurant and be a part of it and to grow up learning that business was huge for us as well. And the Chef Ambassador program, coming up with an idea that I thought was a neat idea and seeing it come to fruition and become what it is today, that it's celebrating its 10th anniversary. There's 34 chefs across the state. Seeing it go internationally, 2 chefs cooked in London this year, 1 in Toronto. So seeing it go internationally and just watching the chefs when they get asked to be a chef ambassador, how blown away they are, how excited they are, how proud they are. That's amazing to know that that was an idea that we came up with. That's been a really proud moment for us.
Yeah, that's definitely pretty cool. I think definitely an inspiration, one for, one young chefs, but also to, especially us, being leaders in agriculture and, with agritourism and involving our community in that. It's definitely a special thing, to have JUNIPER and, to have that, to create this program. Yeah.
Great questions. Great questions.
We definitely, I'm sure a lot of people and also us, appreciate how much work, you've put into this, especially, promoting agriculture, especially it's such a big thing. And I think people, want to support it, like you said, but they don't always know, what's going into it. And, doing these kind of things is definitely bringing the community in.
Yeah. I've said so many times before, I can't do what I do without you. So, I need the food. I need good quality food. And I can't cook and I can't share my passion without what you do. And you make my job so much easier because when the product comes in fresh and delicious and ready to go, I really don't have to do much to it. A little butter and salt and pepper, that's it, So I appreciate, everything you bring to the table, everything this school brings to the table, and basically celebrate your futures in this business and love to do business with you, as you decide what version of agriculture you're going to go into.
We definitely want to thank you for coming out,
Yes.
touring, seeing campus, helping us and talking us through all this. Very much so. Definitely we'll begin to wrap this edition up of Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water. I would like to thank Chef Brandon Veal for joining us today. If you get the opportunity, please be sure to visit his restaurant, Juniper, in downtown Ridge Spring. I know definitely we will probably take a trip soon. My name is Gray Gardner, and I hope you will join us again next time for another visit to the farm on Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water.
Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water. A closer look at agriculture in South Carolina and conversations between the current and future leaders of agriculture in the Palmetto State and experts from across America. Presented by the students of the South Carolina Governor's School for Agriculture at John De La Howe. For more information on the South Carolina Governor's School for Agriculture, visit our website at delahowe.sc.gov.